Next up, we have one of the leaders of industry's AI revolution, Sri Ambati. Sri is the CEO and co-founder of H2O. In case you haven't heard, H2O is the leading open source machine learning platform used by 18,000 companies and hundreds of thousands of data scientists. At AI4, we've been partners with H2O since 2018, and it's been awesome to watch them succeed. Sri is someone who truly believes in the potential of AI to positively transform our world. Please welcome Sri to the virtual stage for his talk entitled Democratizing the Future of AI. Welcome, Sri.
Thank you. Thank you so much, AI4, for having us. I want to use this opportunity to present H2O and the enormous amount of community that's been behind us in our growth. Time is the only non-renewable resource, and to be alive is to be the courage the world needs. We are democratizing AI, and in H2O, we have built an amazing community of 20,000 plus companies who use our platforms, and more than 250,000 last counted of data scientists who use us to build machine learning applications day in, day out across the world. Here are some of our top customers. As you can see, we have penetrated every known vertical at this point, and H2O is home to some of the world's top data scientists. The world #1 Kaggle Grandmaster is at H2O at this point, and we are super excited at how the community of H2O Kaggle Grandmasters are different verticals. A vast majority of our financial services customers are using us in consumer and retail banking, but we are beginning to see a very amazing traction on the fixed income side as well. Retailers have been extremely strong in the last, especially the e-tailers. Delivery, we're seeing a lot of demand sensing applications in retail, pricing, forecasting, fraud prevention, and credit scoring. But the platform is very generic. As you can see, we do all the way from automated audits to healthcare, and we'll talk a little bit about healthcare, and all the way till oil and manufacturing use cases. Typically, we land as a fraud prevention customer. Customers try to use us for large data analytics using our open source platform, H2O. Our platform auto-generates an inference engine that goes and runs on the edge. It's not uncommon for customers to then start embracing AI to change subprime credit scoring, consumer finance, as well as auto finance, AML, KYC, or master data management. Typically, by the time we are in the infrastructure phase, CIOs are very keen at doing enterprise-wide rollouts. In fixed income, market access is a long partner for us. We reprice corporate bonds every 15 seconds, and that's been a bulwark of their Composite Plus prediction engine. We also work with Franklin Templeton, for example, in trying to do mortgage-backed securities and municipal bonds. One of the core characteristics of H2O, we're obsessed with customers. Customers are on our board, customers on our floor. We have a lot of incredible talent that is co-inventing stuff with customers. Our vision is to make every company an AI company. And that started with our first generation platform, H2O, followed by our second gen automatic machine learning platform called driverless AI. And we are very proud to be coming into the market in Q4 with our latest platform that allows business users and app developers to start building applications, and that's H2O. Quite a widespread team. Of course, the teams are distributed, and we are super excited at how the overall team is coming together. Our three platforms, as I was telling, open source at the bottom, ML, assembly language for AI. AutoML, AI to do AI. And what we're working on is the middleware for AI that allows people to build continuously learning containers. A portion of this platform is developer centric, looking for reusable design patterns and templates, and a very rich app store that is powering some really important verticals in the space. Our culture of makers is right at the heart of the company, which has led to continuous innovation. Typically, customers view us as visionaries in our spaces, mostly because we are continuously reinventing how AI can become more and more simpler and easier to deploy. Open source is at the heart of that maker culture for us. We are busy building communities as well as busy building customer success. But open source means freedom. It gives the most freedom to our customers and to communities, and that's the core ethos of the company, to democratize AI and give it into the hands of the largest number of people. Data is the team sport, as most of you know, and we are continuously building bridges between these communities at our customers. Entrepreneurship is as difficult or more difficult than entrepreneurship, and a large number of innovation in AI, the last mile is actually with domain experts. A large number of you in the audience are domain experts, and working closely with data scientists, building that rich applications that allow transformation in your core vertical is where the last mile of AI is, which really translates to building rich app stores that can be explainable, that are fair, that are accurate, but also continuously learning. Data fuels AI, and today it is far too expensive to build an AI-first applications. So our platform Q is trying to make that really smooth and easy to build and deliver to your customers. Our core mission at H2O is to turn science to software so that it becomes easy to deploy and operationalize. H2O delivers Mojo, which is a platform, which is an inference engine that comes out of the box from our training, and that gets embedded. Today, Alipay, Apple Pay, PayPal, several of the payment systems, several applications have us embedded into their core rule engines. And AI is essentially rebuilding these rule engines automatically from data. Operationalization of AI is kind of where the second phase, this current phase of AI, is taking those inference engines and deploying them at scale and over continuously learning containers, either over cloud or on-prem, and then building a very good bit of guardrails for validation. Finally, we expect federated learning, where AI is learning at the edge and continuously reinventing itself. AI4 is a place we have been presenting over the last 3-4 years, and so we're super excited to be here. And we're here to talk about a very interesting topic for AI4, AI for good. H2O rose up to the crisis that landed on our laps from COVID-19, and we've been privileged to serve the community in its hour of need. And a lot of our data scientists have been working closely with hospitals and community health systems to try and be there when data sciences can help. Change is the only constant. As most of you have seen, that good machine learning is still premium. Backtesting of your models is just as important as the model itself. Let me show one such app we recently built that measures our own accuracy in predicting the COVID-19 crisis. There has been a pandemic, but there has also been an epidemic of dashboards. And most of these dashboards are not as, we found not to be as accurate as they could be. So our team put together a backtesting framework that allows you to look at the top models alongside the CAD models, the epidemiological model, power growth model, PG model was the Kaggle Grandmasters models that ended up winning most of the contests, and looking at kind of how how accurate the model was over time. Obviously, early part of the crisis, we felt that the models were not as efficient or accurate, but and the accuracy um, does vary much more as you go beyond 7-day prediction to 28-day predictions. We feel like despite our best efforts, we still managed to not be able to safeguard the vast bulk of the population of the planet. But at the same time, these model validation frameworks and guardrails that we can bring to bear for our art form or our craftsmanship will allow safer model deployment in the future. Alternative data sets have been a very powerful augmentation for some of our retail customers, especially when they were trying to do demand sensing and prediction of more fast-changing conditions made really difficult for many of our customers in their ability to predict during this crisis. So one of the things we did was we made it really easy for some of our largest retailers to automatically augment COVID data as well as Twitter sentiment into their applications. Nowcasting, which is almost the extreme edition of forecasting, became a pretty much, many of you in the audience are probably particularly familiar with the continuous model deployment and learning and iteration cycle that persisted during the COVID-19 frame. Some of our customers, retailers selling cleaning supplies or paper have been faced with the same situation. And as it turns out, predicting demand in correlations to COVID-19 cases has been a good way to kind of assess how to revamp supply chain. We found that using simple interpretable models had the most impact in fast-changing conditions, owing to its high bias and low variance. Lending specifically had very unique challenges. Credit bureau data has been changing rapidly, sometimes to the good. Most people's FICO scores rose up essentially by 15 plus points, but unreliable payment data and government stimulus uncertainty played havoc in some of the planning for lending. I want to focus a little bit on, as ML enters AI, fairness and disparate impact analysis becomes a very important aspect. Black box models have always been suspect, but I think some of the best skeptics in regulatory spaces are coming together to help us come up with a common terminology. We work closely with Discover, Wells Fargo, Synchrony, and some of our other customers to build that common framework and language and techniques that will allow us to make a common case against regulators. The team has been busy building some really good additions to the platform, and happy to say that we've now improvised, created a way to bring in not just our existing methods, but community-created methods in fairness and explainable AI methods into the same platform. So the recipe architecture, which was at the heart of H2O driverless AI, which allows us to community to invent and improve, is now being brought to machine learning interpretability and responsible AI pieces as well. Model distillation, which is the ability to take a very complex model and create its surrogate or its similarly equivalent models that are more interpretable, far more predictable or monotonic. Those are some of the things that our customers have been talking about, and you'll probably see a talk later today from Agus from Wells Fargo on explainable neural networks and additive index models. But model distillation and trying to perturb the data to trigger adversarial data generation that will trigger at least debias some of the and look for the maximum error you can create in the model with the limited amount of perturbation in the data is something we've been working very closely to understand further. Models trained on biased data will obviously be biased. So we're finding some interesting biases in both publicly available models, especially their non-monotonicity for negative sentiment or positive sentiment. Over counterintuitively, models based on Twitter and other public data sets seem to show a much higher tendency to be positive sentiment. Several image GANs, and some I will show before we end, are showcasing bias both race and ethnicity. Here's an example of Robert being not as advertised, as accurate as one would have expected. Work from Samir Singh from UCI. And as you can see at the top of this, you see the accuracy of some of these models are not as one would have expected. BERT models would have most of us expected BERT models to have solved the NLP problem. Unfortunately, it's not as far as we would have expected it to be. All models are useful. Some models are all models are wrong. Some models are useful, and where they are wrong is where we want to interpret, further understand what's happening with the models. Let me showcase a couple of these adversarial robust networks that we managed to put together in our platform. This is an app that is actually takes in a data set and automatically generates kind of ways for generates adversarial tests against that data to start seeing where the data would where the model would break. Interest rate, loan purpose, net income, debt to income ratio. And what it does is automatically generates a model using driverless AI. It generates data to beat the model that was originally created. I have an earlier run of this that I'll just show here, but adversarial testing is going to become almost a testing for model robustness becomes more interesting, where fast changing conditions, are your models more prone to attack or not? Lastly, I wanted to show a popular GAN model that is seems out of the world biased, where angry young men turn out to be of the other color. So, I think in general, our vision here is to continue to build a platform that allows you to tweak, understand, and learn where the models are wrong, how they are, if there is interpretation of why they were wrong. We want to reduce the cost of failure and reduce the cost of experimentation, so you can continue to improve your platform of AI. We want you to be an AI company and not just the 5 tech giants to take over every space. We want you to make data. All AI companies create their own data and make history. As H2O, we are here to democratize AI, and thank you for being part of our journey. Thanks, AI4.